Welcome, everybody. We got some people here joining me live on Zoom, but we also have people listening in over in the ER Shred Facebook group. So thank you all for joining me tonight. I'm really looking forward to talking about mindset and triggers. I have a lot to say about this topic and definitely had a lot of great feedback when I posted in the group asking people to share some of the things that they feel are their biggest triggers. So we're going to discuss all of that. I'm going to start by sharing some of my thoughts around triggers, kind of doing a short little class about it. And then we're going to invite Ruby Lamore and Catherine Reynolds on tonight to do some live one-on-one coaching around some of their own triggers. But before I start, I don't want to forget to say happy birthday to Isogenics. It's the 20th birthday of Isogenics. So it's pretty exciting that they've been around that long. All right. I also want to start by doing a quick little 2-minute meditation to get us in the right mindset. Let's calm ourselves, breathe. Clear your mind and settle into your body. When I meditate, I really like to focus on feeling inside of my body, the energy going throughout my body, and focusing on different areas of my body and really trying to focus on the inner energy field within my body. And then also take this time to set your intentions for this call. What are you hoping to get out of this? Be mindful of your own triggers and how these things that I'm about to share can apply to your own personal life. And remember, today is Gratitude Tuesday. So think about some things that you're grateful for. And know that you can post any questions that you have in the chat, and I'll be able to check in on those a little bit later. And I'd be happy to address any questions, or if you even want to mention some of your own personal triggers, then I'd be happy to address those as well. If you don't want to come on live, then you can just put it in the chat. One more deep breath. All right, so first of all, what are triggers? It's an action or situation that can lead to an adverse emotional reaction, which often results in unhealthy behavior. So here you can see the list that I have of some of these emotions that you may feel at any given time that causes you to engage in a behavior that you don't necessarily want. Oftentimes it's reverting to food or drink or binge watching Netflix, or even triggering some anger within us that could cause us to react in ways towards others that we later regret, like yelling at our kids or saying hurtful things to other people. And later we regret saying those things. But when we take a look back, we know that it's coming from something within us that was triggered. So what I want to focus on tonight is recognizing what those triggers are. Some things that you feel is something that you experience often, like Do you often feel ignored, lonely, powerless, unheard, judged, controlled? And like I said, when we are experiencing these emotions, sometimes we revert to things that we aren't really wanting to do, like eat things that we know are not part of our protocol or in alignment with our goals. So this is a visual that I created earlier today because last night I was trying to imagine what this looks like for me. To first, it's about noticing how you feel. And we talked about this in one of the previous mindset calls that I did on emotional vibration. And I shared an emotional vibration chart that can help you identify where you are on this emotional vibration chart. And it's really about identifying the emotion that you feel first and foremost. And then we can go a little deeper from there and find out what are the thoughts and the beliefs that are triggering this emotion, because all of our thoughts and beliefs are what creates our emotions. So understanding that is how we can really start to detangle these things that are going on in our subconscious that we have a hard time recognizing. And the one thing that I'm so grateful for when it comes to ER Shred is what we often have been talking about is the self-awareness that has been spilling over from our protocol. The ER Shred protocol has spilled over into more awareness in our overall life. And that is the beauty of taking back control when it comes to our diets. And then we can also apply that to other areas of our lives. And by recognizing what is being triggered, where the triggers are coming from, what emotion you're feeling, and then identifying the thought and the belief that it's coming from. So in this picture, you can see that the way I envision it is you have the mind is actually, I see it as outside of us because it doesn't feel like the mind is actually who we are. Our mind is the primitive side of us that is still operating out of instinct, and its main goal is to avoid all negative emotion because it believes that it's doing its job by trying to keep you safe. And when we feel any negative emotion, the mind thinks that it has to do something to get rid of that negative emotion, and it's more of a survival mechanism that the brain comes with, which is a beautiful thing. But our mindfulness can allow us to be aware of the fact that our mind can be overreacting in unnecessarily. So the mind, I envision that it's not really a part of us. We have a mind and a brain, but it's not who we are. And our mind is full of our past and our future, the fear of, and more often than not, it's focused on the fear of the future. That's where anxiety and worry comes from, because we're imagining all the worst case scenarios. So I do believe that it's good to visualize what we want for our future in order to manifest the things that we want. But habitually, we focus more on the fear of the future and worst case scenarios. We're imagining all the awful outcomes instead of focusing on how we would like to create the future that we would like to create. So our mind is made up of all of our past experiences and our beliefs. And we're also, the worry and anxiety is coming from fear of the future. So I imagine that these are two loudspeakers blasting in my ears, and I cannot hear my inner voice. It's like the radio is blasting. And I used to believe that I was not worthy of. I used to believe that hearing from my inner voice or connecting to my inner voice was about worthiness. And I didn't know that my inner voice was there all along speaking to me, but I couldn't hear it because I had these two speakers blasting in my ears. And so it's not necessarily that I believe that we should remove our past and our future altogether, because we do need our past and our future. It is helpful to learn from our past and take that information and experience that we have from our past and also be mindful of the future as well. But you break it away from your ears so that you can more clearly hear your inner voice, your higher self speaking to you. And that's where we find the real beliefs that are going to help us, going to serve us and empower us in our lives. And when we find ourselves being triggered and feeling a specific emotion, usually the negative emotions are the ones that we dislike and we're afraid of, we have to take the time to figure out where that's coming from. So let's break that off of our ears, move that down a little bit. We still have them, but that way it's not so loud blasting in our ears, and we can connect to our higher self and listen to what our inner voice is trying to tell us, the truth about us and the truth about what we ultimately want. And, when we're falling away to, we're being led by the worry and the anxiety about the future. But hey, Brent, can you allow Mimi to come in? Just admit her. I see that, but I don't think I can click on it with my screen sharing. So anyway, the next thing I wanted to show you. Okay. Somebody is not muted. Can you all mute yourselves? Okay. So step number 1 is recognizing your emotions and getting clear on that. Step number 2 is changing your beliefs. And I think that these two pictures are a perfect visual of how we sometimes believe the world is. We think that our experience is what everybody else is experiencing and believing about something. And a rainy day is the perfect example, because when you think of a rainy day, what comes to your mind? What emotions come up for you? Do you love rainy days or do you hate them? Does it ruin your day? Do you have bad memories of a rainy day? Like, what is your opinion and belief about a rainy day? And that's a perfect example of simply being aware that what we think about something is what we think about something, and it's not the actual truth. It's not a fact. When sometimes we express our lives and our circumstances as factual, but we fail to recognize that the way we see the circumstance is coming from how we perceive it, the thoughts we're telling ourselves about it, the beliefs we have about it. And we have to learn how to step back from that and realize that everything that happens to us, everything in life, is actually neutral. A rainy day is just a rainy day. But it's only our minds that come in and have an opinion about it. Either it's fun, it's exciting, it's beautiful to see the rain, it's watering the earth, it's replenishing, or it messes up our vacation plans, and it's dark, it's depressing, and it causes natural disasters and mudslides and floods and all of that. So we have to recognize that everything in our lives is actually neutral, and our thoughts and beliefs are what changes it. So when we can learn how to step back from it and get to a place of neutrality, which I know is very hard because we are definitely emotional beings, which can be a good thing. We just have to learn how to work with them. So it's about realizing what is a fact and what is our belief. So when we tell a story about something, we need to be able to identify what part of this is my opinion, based on my beliefs and my thoughts that I'm having about it, and what part of it is actually a fact. A fact is obviously something that we can all agree on, and that's the definition of a fact. So be mindful of that as you share your experience and as you talk about yourself, as you talk about your life and your circumstance. Be mindful of the way you're expressing it, and it's okay to express it from your perspective and based on your beliefs around it, but just notice that. Simply notice that it's your belief. It's the glasses that I talked about. You have your own set of glasses that you are seeing the world through. And if you know that you have the glasses on, then you can be that much more empowered. But oftentimes we go through life not realizing that we have a set of glasses on that is different than everybody else in this world. And just noticing that can be extremely empowering and can be an important step to learning how to manage your mind. And then in turn, managing those triggers. So truth is a choice. And I used to think that there was one truth, and that everybody had to believe in this one truth. My whole life, I thought there is only one truth. And I did not realize that truth is subjective. Truth is a choice. Truth is what we decide to believe. And recognizing that was really eye-opening for me. I just thought we have this universal truth and we just all need to believe in it and then we'll all be happy. But I didn't realize that truth is just a choice. We can decide to believe that what's coming through our minds from the past and what we were taught, what we experienced growing up, what people told us. We can choose that to be our truth. We can choose to see the future as scary and so many reasons to be worried about it, and that can be our truth. Or we can decide we get to choose what's going to be our truth. And I know that is a tough pill to swallow. It's not easy to just decide, I just have to think better thoughts. I just have to believe in something better. It's not that easy. And I know that, but I know that there are ways to work on changing your beliefs. And it's just a daily practice and it's a process. It's not something you just snap your finger and suddenly you know how to fully love yourself and to stop shaming yourself and to stop being angry at that person. It's not like it happens overnight, but I know that we can make progress, gradual progress, as we are mindful of our thoughts and aware of the emotions that we are experiencing. Because our thoughts create our emotions and our emotions fuel our actions. So when we go to the fridge and we grab something that we know is not what we ultimately want to eat, we know it's not going to make us feel good. And speaking from experience, wine is something that I sometimes have, knowing that it's going to give me a headache. So it's funny how that happens. We know what our culprits are, but we still find ourselves giving into the urge. So don't beat yourself up. Don't shame yourself. There is absolutely no reason to feel any shame or guilt. That's one thing we need to get out of our minds. Shame and guilt are not useful. The information gathered is all we need to take with us. Let go of the shame. Whatever you learned about yourself from giving into the glass of wine or eating that cookie, knowing that was going to hurt your stomach, or even overeating, because I know that certain foods, sometimes certain things trigger the part of us that wants to binge on something. And we can all, I'm trying not to use the word guilty. We can all relate to binging. We binge on different things. We're all unique, but we all have experienced binging in some form. Binging on Netflix, binging on food, binging on drinks, binging on anger, indulging in different emotions like anger and rage or even jealousy. So being mindful of that is really going to be a huge step for us actually making progress. So about ready to let's have Ruby Lamore come on, and we're going to talk through some of her triggers. And I'm sure there will be a lot of people listening in that can relate to Ruby.
I'm here.
Okay. There we go. All right. Stop sharing my screen, right? Now it's just us. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ruby. So you wrote to me what your triggers are, but can you share that with everybody tonight?
Well, one of the first major triggers that I found after doing ER Shred was sunflower oil, sunflower seeds, the oils especially, and they hide sunflower oil and similar oils in so many foods that we eat. And they would literally make my ears. I wear hearing aids, so it blocks your ears, and I would have fluid pouring, literally running out the sides of my face. It was so bad. And I dealt with that for over 3 years and many specialists, and nobody was able to help me. ER Shred helped me find what that trigger was. And I also suffered from a lot of massive bloating that actually was inflammation. And I didn't know it was inflammation. I just thought it was bloating, but it was extreme. And the first ER Shred, I lost 8.5 pounds, but I lost 8 inches. And the majority of that was inflammation. And then a second trigger for me is grains. I love bread. Bread is a huge weakness for me. And so breads are definitely a trigger in all from grains.
So trigger as in not necessarily an emotional trigger, or what are you saying? Like triggers as in like a physical response from your body, or?
Well, I thought it was just the physical, because I thought it was just the bloating and discomfort. But as I watched your list, that was very enlightening, by the way. I had the snappy days for no reason, no physical reason, no female reason, just out of nowhere. So I had the snappiness. I've had the feel like the bad girl for no reason. I felt ignored. I felt controlled. I felt disconnected. And my body will also, like, especially with wheat, if I have a piece of toast in the evening, which is an old habit, my body kind of flushes. It's not really a hot flash, but you warm all over, and all of a sudden it's too warm, yet you were comfortable 10 minutes ago. And then it goes back away.
Okay. So
that's what I deal with.
Okay. So you're saying that that list that you saw, you realized that you could identify with some of them, and you know that those were probably some of the emotions or thoughts that you were having before you ate the bread. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, it's what I've been dealing with for many years, and I would not have thought of those being triggers from food.
Yeah. That, I know, it's interesting, right? We don't realize that some things that, things that happen during the day, something somebody said. I feel like there's some feedback. Is that from?
Yeah, it's funny how that it just rolls and rolls and rolls through our mind over the day, and we just think that's normal, but it is being brought on by these triggers. I find that amazing to learn that.
Yeah. So can you think of a specific example of something that happened recently, that an experience that you had recently that you can recognize was the beginning of the trigger to eat the bread? Something that happened that day, or something that you were thinking or feeling at that on that day?
For me, I think choosing what to eat is really just a hardcore habit. Have my habits. If they're habits, it's what I've eaten my whole life. I mean, I got rid of a lot of stuff over the years, moving towards healthier and healthier, even when I was moving towards, vegan at one point. But there's just a part of that core that's always been there. And
so you believe that you believe that you do it out of habit and not necessarily craving it, but you just are used to eating it, and it's just something that you mindlessly do.
Well, no, because if I take it out of the house, then I crave it, and then I end up going and getting it. So yeah, it's a craving as well.
Okay, good. Well, this is good information. We need to get to the bottom of it and really look at this from all angles. So you said you do crave it, but there's also a habit that that it's partially out of habit. It's like an impulse that you're used to doing because you've done it your whole life. So you do it even though you know it really affects you negatively with your body. Mm-hmm. So when it's not in the house and you're craving it, what do? Do you go get some?
Usually I break down and go and get it. Yes.
Okay. Well, good. No, thank you for being honest, because we are not about perfection here in ER Shred. And it's good for us all to be open and authentic about everything so that we can help each other. Because if we're going to all pretend like we do this perfectly, then we're not actually helping anybody. So you'll go out and get it. But do you think that there's something that you were thinking or feeling before you decided to go get it? Were you feeling anxious? Were you feeling bored?
I'm never bored, but I do get, if there's a lot going on and I do build up an anxiety, that does make it worse for wanting to eat. And then what you want to grab when you feel that way is never the good stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. So it's worry, anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you tend to have anxiety about? What is it that you're worrying about?
Usually it's just when I have my hands in several different, juggling several different balls at once. That usually will create a little bit of an anxiety, hoping to get through something, not drop one of the balls. And if I have a stall of waiting in there, sometimes that just makes it really emotional.
Okay. Anticipating a specific outcome where you have to like wait to find the result or the outcome. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's pick one of those things. So you think that you regularly feel like you have a lot on your plate. And what are those things that are you choosing this, or is this just is it something that just seems to come all at once?
For the most part, I'm choosing the things that I'm doing, but a lot of them are new. And so that brings a lot of major learning curves with it. So it's always keeping you on your toes. You think you got it, and then all of a sudden you realize there's 5 things you didn't know, and now you've got to figure out these 5 things all at once. It's kind of like that.
Okay. Yeah. So it's worrying that you're not going to learn and do all the things that you need to do in a timely manner based on the things that you've chosen as far as your goals go and what you're choosing to spend your time on during the day. Is that right?
Correct. And setting a high bar for yourself.
Okay, yeah. I know. Yeah, that sounds like it's good to like set the bar a little higher, not too high, but because working towards something and striving for something can actually be, give us a lot of purpose in our lives. So I definitely encourage people to always be working towards something as far as learning and growing and overcoming and trying new things and being open to new things. So I love that you're doing that. Do you have thoughts about yourself and your ability to do these things that you set out to do?
Um, I'd say no. I don't think so.
So you have confidence that you are capable of these things.
Yeah,
Okay. It's just
I
time.
do. I lived for a long time on the other side, so
Oh, good. So you've
yeah,
gained some great perspective from your own life experience. So then it comes down to time. Is that
yeah,
correct? When you feel anxious, you feel like you're running out of time. You don't have enough time to get the things done that you need to. Is that right?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
yes.
what are your is there an actual deadline that you have for these things that you need to accomplish? Or is it something that you have created in your
Most of the
mind like
time,
this
yes.
should be done at a certain time? So
Most of it probably is actual deadlines. And then there might be some where I know I need to get it done, and so I kind of give myself the deadline because then there's all the other stuff that I need to do behind it. So
okay. Good. Okay. I love that you're describing all of these things for everybody listening in to see if they can relate to what you feel and what causes them to indulge in behavior that is not part of what they ultimately want, is not going to produce the results that they want. So when it comes to um, first, you've identified we're looking at it from all angles. We're getting all the details that we can. And now we I don't find, well, not it so far I can't find any negative thoughts about this necessarily, but it's just the waiting that gets you. It's like almost excitement, even not necessarily like worrying about doing a bad job, worrying about your ability, um, and those types of things, or people judging you in any
yeah,
way. It's just more like the anticipation, which can be described as anxiety, but also can be excitement. Anxiety could go
hmm
both ways. So it's the anticipation that your body has learned to push it away by indulging in food. So instead of sitting with the emotion, and that's an important component to this, is you know recognizing the different emotions, and also seeing that there are always thoughts and beliefs behind the emotions. But if it's excitement, it's not necessarily like something that you need to change, but it's about learning how to feel the emotion and sit with that. Because, like I said, our primitive brain does not want to feel any negative emotion. So it's always trying to avoid it, and it's avoiding pain and wants to seek pleasure. So when we're operating from our brain, our minds, it wants to avoid that emotion, and then it wants to seek pleasure. So it goes for the bread. So and then ultimately it counteracts what you really want, what your higher self wants, which is to not eat the bread, and so that your body you can feel good in your body and operate optimally and feel your best. That's what your higher self wants. Your higher self knows you the best and knows what you ultimately want. But the mind, it really can take over sometimes, and it's like, nope, we don't want to feel this anxiety, so let's have some pleasure with this bread. So if we can learn to sit with the emotion and practice it, make it fun. We're all about making this fun. And if you can practice making it fun, by setting a timer. Like, I have lots of ideas on how you can make it fun. First, set a timer for 15 minutes and see if you can wait for 15 minutes if you can go 15 minutes without giving into the urge to eat the bread. Drink a glass of water, or even write a list of 10 things that you're going to do before you go eat the bread. So it's like you can tell yourself that I can have the bread, but first I'm going to do all these things. And then if I still want the bread, I'll have the bread. But I think it's sometimes we try so hard not to have something that we make the urge even stronger. We want it even more when we're told we can't have it. So if we can find a good balance between, become more neutral about the food that we know our bodies don't feel good on. Let's stop thinking of it as evil and bad and I shouldn't have that. It's so bad. I shouldn't have it. And start just allowing yourself to believe that you can have it, but you're going to make it a game. You're going to make it fun. And before I have the bread, I'm going to make sure I do these 15 things, or I set a timer for 15 minutes, or I go on a walk or have a drink of water, and then I can have the bread. But the cool thing is the more you practice it, the more you tell yourself you can have the bread. Stop depriving yourself, because it can have an adverse effect. We have to find that happy medium where we can allow ourselves, tell ourselves that we can have it, but we also have these things that we're going to, play around with. We're going to experiment to see if we can get through the trigger, the urge, sit with that emotion, sit with, wanting that bread, sit with the excitement, anxiety, the stress. We can sit with it for 15 minutes. Make it, it's like as if you enrolled into a college course, and this is your course that you've enrolled in. My class is called Avoiding the Bread, or Sitting with Anxiety and Feeling into My Emotions. Like, you can just title it whatever you want and look at it from that perspective that, okay, I'm taking this college course and I'm going to learn how to sit with anxiety. And I'm going to learn all about anxiety and excitement and worry. And you make it fun. You make it a challenge, one of your challenges, And so if you can try to think of your craving for bread in a way that is not so shameful, or it doesn't make you upset with yourself for indulging in the bread, and just lighten it up, make it fun. So, do you have any questions?
No, I love that flip in mindset. I've done a lot of mindset stuff, and I got to say, you pulled one out that I had not heard. Thank you.
Oh, good. Good. Well, thank you so much for being willing to share that, because I guarantee there's a lot of people that can relate, and there's probably even people that think that they are alone in this and that they just have a problem. Why does everybody else seem to do this, and what's wrong with me? So those are some thoughts that we need to recognize that we might have about ourselves when we do indulge in these things that we know doesn't make us feel good. We have to see, what is it that I'm thinking about myself because I am indulging in this bread or this ice cream or this drink, and get clear on those thoughts, and then we can work on changing those thoughts. But I would love to coach somebody through that. So maybe Catherine, let's see what you have to work on, and we'll see if we can dive a little deeper in some other areas.
Okay. Well, I used to go to 12-step meetings for overeating, and one thing that we never did was to name the thing that we are prone to binge on. I don't expect anybody to go along with that, but
I think that might be helpful for some people. So thank you for sharing that.
I mean, it's helpful, but good grief, if you're thinking about your ice cream or whatever, I mean, I've been known to put down 2 pints in a day when I was just really going through some really strong stuff. And I wish I could tell you that, oh, and then I've gone weeks and months and whatever without even getting any at all. And I have no idea what that length of time might be. So I've been taking a lot of notes. And also I was just listening to an audiobook that's not the entire thing, but a summary of Atomic Habit, I think.
Mhm.
And it had great framework for getting rid of old habits that are negative, not serving you anymore, and also, just flip the parameters. And this is how you build a good habit. Like keeping something about your mindset. I don't know, posted, just everywhere. I have, there's a lot of stuff in my why for shred, and I'm learning a new job any minute now. I'm so stage fright with it that I haven't even started it yet, because it's a self-employment thing. So there's no structure. I'm career military. I'm 5th generation career military. So, there were always rules, growing up.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So you kind of thrive on structure.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't build my own very well so far. I'd like to think that I'm getting there. But man, even just in isogenics, I mean, I had some really fabulous success in 2007 when I first got into it. And by the way, the woman who signed me up, Karen McDonald, I think you've met her.
Oh, yeah.
I love her to pieces. Golly. We met in 1990. We were both in the Memphis area. She was married to a Marine, and I was working on the Navy base, and she was my massage therapist. It's like, I love you, man.
That's great.
But anyway, tomorrow's her birthday. So just random trivia.
What are some of your triggers as far as like emotional triggers, or because you said you were in Alcoholics Anonymous, so I said
overeaters, but
overeaters.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I am curious to know, what is it specifically that is one of have you identified your trigger, or do you want to focus on your goal that you're trying to achieve, but you feel like the triggers are holding you back?
B. I feel like the triggers are holding me back because they're everywhere. I live with 2 family members who eat anything they want, anytime. My 80-year-old mother has 3 Coca-Colas a day. It's not that the Coca-Cola interests me at all, but oh man. So
they are indulging in a lot of the foods that you would like to have, so it makes it hard for you to stick with the protocol. Is that what you're saying?
Reminds me of what I'm missing. And
you're around them a lot?
Yeah, we're in the same house. I'm their caregiver.
Oh, you live. Oh, yeah. I see. Okay. So being around it has been really hard to avoid. Do you think there are specific times where you feel weaker than usual when it comes to not giving into the urges?
Well, I am stronger when I meditate. And so daily meditation has been a long-term goal. I mean, geez, for years, I was trying to build that daily habit. And I'm realizing just in the last couple of weeks that I'm a lot more balanced when I do a meditation.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's great that you recognize that. So do you feel like you've conquered the triggers because of meditation?
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
No.
I would say that would be awesome, right? It'd be that easy. Oh, 10-minute meditation every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also, I've moved a lot. I've been in Central Arkansas for 8 years now, and this is the longest I've lived anywhere in my entire life. I'll be 60 next month, and I have never been anywhere for 8 years, including my childhood. You know, we had 14 different homes that I know of.
So is it the fact that you've moved a lot that makes it hard for you to?
Most of my good friends are elsewhere.
Oh, so you feel like you would do better if you had closer friends, relationships?
I think so. I mean, I love my sisters, you know. And Mom.
So the feeling that you are experiencing is maybe a little bit of loneliness or disconnection from people.
Yeah, definitely.
And the food kind of is your comfort.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. That's good
to
recognize that. So
any real strong emotion, whether it's, I don't know, just literally almost anything except absolute joy, any super strong emotion is gonna just make me want to eat. But when I was only reaching for ER shred foods for several months, I mean, I had some great success, and then 4 months of not fabulous success where I lost some ground. And so I'm really working right now trying to identify what are my triggers, you know, and how do I work around them. That's how I kind of accidentally realized that the meditation really helps. And I think I need to write more in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, good. I love the idea of writing. It's been one of my favorite things and the most helpful things that I've incorporated into my daily habits is writing out, getting everything that's in my brain out onto paper. And that's one way that can really help us identify what we're feeling and what we're thinking. Right. And we can kind of examine that and see, wait a minute, that's interesting that I'm believing this about myself or this about my life. But, you know, like in the pictures that I showed you, rain is just rain.
Yeah.
But now recognizing what do we think about rain? What do we believe? How does it make us feel? Then we can see how we have the choice to decide, are we going to love rain or are we going to hate it?
Yeah.
And we get to choose. So just noticing that and realizing that we get to choose can help us begin to make the changes to in our beliefs. So when you're talking about, you mentioned loneliness, but you also said that you experience all kinds of negative emotions. So it's not just loneliness and thinking about your desire to have closer relationships, but there's other things as well. So can you think back at the most recent negative emotion that you felt? And did you also, did you end up, you know, consuming the food that you didn't want to necessarily?
Yeah, I wanted to go up to Massachusetts. I used to go 4 times a year, and my son lives there. He's moved away a couple of times, but he usually goes back to his hometown. And we had some things planned, and I couldn't go. Our household had a bunch of unexpected expenses, and that was my travel money. So so that was really disappointing, beyond belief, again, because it's been hard to see him, of course, during COVID. But I know I'll see him this summer, And, so I'm looking forward, and, but also right around the time that it became apparent that I couldn't see my son, someone who's really, really important to my niece died suddenly. He was having some, heart symptoms and was going to go get it checked, but just literally just dropped dead one morning. And that kind of thing runs in my son's family, his father, and just yikes. So that hit me. But also the one time that I ever ran into this person, I was really uncomfortable, because I knew some personal stuff about him, having never spoken to him, but I wasn't friendly. I can talk to a stranger in the grocery store for 20 minutes, and he's the father of my little 5-year-old grandnephew, who's a sweetheart. And so he has no dad now at 5, and then when we...
So is this what this specific experience is? What was your most recent negative encounter with negative emotion?
Regret. I regretted not being more of myself to this man the one time that I ever met him, because it turns out we did the same job in the military. I mean, that's not, because he's a person that was in combat, and you just don't ask people, oh, what'd you do? Where'd you go? And, but we could have talked about that, or just the job, and being around airplanes, and stuff like that. So, that was...
Are there specific things that you learned that you took from that experience, as far as realizing what, like you said, I could have asked him about those things, and now looking back, you're feeling regret because you didn't.
Right. Because I didn't know until I was at his funeral, and I saw some pictures, and I saw an insignia that I was like, oh my God, and I just smacked the head with the hand, what a lost opportunity. And
so isn't that funny how regret pretends to be helpful? We think we're supposed to feel regret, but when we think about a past experience and we recognize all the information gathered from that experience, then we walk away with this bundle of information that we didn't have before that encounter. So instead of having the regret and carrying that regret, and then it becomes more of a lower vibration emotion, which causes us to indulge in behavior that we don't necessarily want, we can look at that and see like, oh, wait a minute, I'm feeling regret. Why am I feeling regret? Oh, it's because I think I should have done something different. If I switch my belief to, oh, everything happened exactly as it should, because now look what I have. I have this information about myself. I can learn from it and, use that as information to help me for the next time around, or even just identify your own insecurities. You can go down all different routes here, and then that way you can, as we shine the light on all the different areas, all the different compartments to this experience, then it's like, poof, that's when you start to make real growth. We think that we're supposed to just have all these step-by-step, you like structure, and you're supposed to have like this step-by-step, like to-do list, this manual that tells us what we're supposed to do. But really, it's just the awareness is what causes everything to just dissipate. And that's when we realize like, oh, I've overcome that because I got really good at looking at these experiences from all angles, instead of being like, oh, I feel regret. Oh, and you're replaying it in your head, and you're just kind of beating yourself up over and over.
But just since you've been talking,
I
realized well, I just need to talk to his son about it. You know, the little 5-year-old dude who, you know, every week he has a different thing he wants to be when he grows up. And I don't
Yeah.
necessarily want him to be a Marine, you know,
Mm.
but if he wants to work around airplanes, you know, I can talk to him about a few of them. But
Yeah. Yeah,
you
that's
know,
cool, right? So your brain
yeah,
has gone off of the conveyor belt of, it's like you're on this, your brain was on this treadmill of like regret, regret, regret. But now you recognize that you're feeling regret, and you've brought the flashlight, and you kind of have this awareness there. And suddenly you've opened up that space of creativity, which is solution,
yay.
problem solving. You've tapped into that inner voice. Isn't that really cool? That your higher
It
self, you just
is.
now tapped in, you let go of the regret because we're talking through it. And
Yeah,
then it opened it up quickly, and you're like, oh, talk to the sun, solution, you know?
exactly.
So it's really
There was
cool when
some
we learn how to
phrase, I
let
wish I
that
could,
go.
I'll go back and listen to it and see where was that phrase where it's like, wow, because it was something you said, and I have no idea what it was now because I didn't want to
That's
interrupt, even though I
No,
ended up
I'm glad that
interrupting.
you thought to listen back to this, because
Yeah,
that is going to be really helpful. Because
yeah,
when we can identify the phrase, because that's all it takes to change your thoughts and your beliefs, is you got to flip through. It's like flipping through, like, let's find one that works, one that resonates, because
exactly.
you can't just say, oh, I just need to love myself more, and then you're like, I love
How?
myself, I love myself. It's like you don't
Yeah,
really know how. You have to find the belief that resonates, so you flip through like multiples. And then, like, so you're listening to me talking, and then I said one thing that triggered that resonance, like, oh, I can believe that, that's true. My
yeah,
higher self, my inner being saying, yep, that's true, that's true. And then that's when you can open up that space. So it's really cool when you realize how easy it is to change your beliefs, but also at the same time, the hard part is finding the one that, it's like that resonance that brings you alive, you know?
right,
Like,
right.
yep,
Come
yeah,
alive.
exactly. So thank you so much, Catherine. That was really
Thank you.
helpful, and I'm sure people can relate. So I appreciate you being vulnerable, and this has sure been a lot of fun. If you guys want to continue this conversation on Facebook, then I'd be happy. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to read your, if anyone has any questions, because I don't have Heather here with me tonight, but I will check through these right now, and we can continue the conversation in the comments of this live video in the Facebook group. So thank you guys so
Okay.
much for joining
Thank
me.
you.
And don't forget to join us tomorrow night for the Come Alive call with Sean.
Thank you, Crystal.
All right. See you guys. Have a good night.
You
You
too.
too.
Beautiful, Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.